Welcome to the Country Watch Political Intelligence Briefing Quick Hits, a weekly briefing of hot stories across the world in brief. I'm Denise Youngblood Coleman, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief and Senior International Affairs Analyst at Country Watch. This week, Burma, the country also known as Myanmar, is featured. In the early hours of February 1st, Aung San Suu Kyi, the de facto leader of Burma, also known as Myanmar, was detained by the army in an apparent coup d'etat. Other party officials associated with the ruling National League for Democracy, such as President Win Myint and other senior ruling party figures, were also detained and being held in custody. The military soon confirmed that it had seized power and was declaring a one-year state of emergency. According to the coup leadership, power now resided in the hands of the military's commander-in-chief, Min Aung Hlaing. As the head of the military, he has wielded significant power. His role in persecuting ethnic and religious minorities, such as the Rohingya of Rakhine, has been of particular concern over the years. Tensions had increased between the military and the civilian government following the general election in November last year. The new parliament was scheduled to convene on February 1st for the first time since that landslide victory by Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy. It seemed that the military was determined to repeat its action of the past and vitiate the popular will of the people on the eve of the opening session of the country's new parliament. The military junta was citing election fraud as its rationale for seizure of power. That claim of election fraud would be difficult to reconcile with the reality that the National League for Democracy wins all recent elections handily and won the election in November with 138 seats and close to 62% of the vote share, a decisive landslide victory. Stated differently, given the National League for Democracy's overwhelming popular support in Myanmar, also known as Burma, this is a dubious explanation for the extra-constitutional subversion of democratic order. International condemnation has been swift and vociferous. And in Burma, the National League for Democracy issued a statement in Suu Kyi's name calling on the people of the country and of the world not to accept the military coup. In other news from around the world, Russia has been rocked by protests in support of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. On January the 31st, tens of thousands of protesters flooded the streets of cities across Russia, from Moscow to St. Petersburg to Vladivostok in the east. There were also mass demonstrations in eastern Siberia and in the Urals. Essentially, Russia was being rocked by nationwide mass action. The protesters continue to voice their demand for the release of Navalny, but there was also some burgeoning anti-Putin-esque elements, with some of them chanting "Putin resign." According to the OVD Info Monitoring Group, more than 5,000 people were arrested, with some protesters being beaten with clubs by police. The hardline action by Russian authorities against the demonstrators was yielding international condemnation. The new Biden administration in the United States urged Russia to release Navalny and criticize the crackdown. The Russian Foreign Ministry dismissed Secretary of State Blinken's statement, casting it to be a crude interference in Russia's internal affairs. On February 2nd, Navalny was sentenced to prison for 3.5 years for violating the conditions of a suspended sentence for embezzlement. He has maintained that this is a politically motivated charge. Because he has already served a year under house arrest, that time will be deducted from the total prison sentence. In Ethiopia, where the government carried out a military offensive into the Tigray region to target rebellious regional leaders last year, the resistance by the Tigray People's Liberation Front goes on. In November last year, the Ethiopian government showed, by its own description, no mercy if people did not save themselves, as it carried out a harsh offensive to subdue and control the city of Mekelle. The situation in Tigray continued to flare in January of this year when Ethiopian troops targeted and killed top officials of the Tigray People's Liberation Front. Still at large at the time was the chairman of the TPLF, Debretsion Gebremichael, whose location was unknown at the start of the year. But in the last few days, the fugitive chairman has resurfaced an audio recording where he said he was committed to extended resistance. The leader of Tigray called Tigrayans abroad to contribute time and money in support of Tigrayan fighters. In Italy, Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has resigned after former Premier Matteo Renzi withdrew his Italia Viva party from the coalition government, essentially depriving the ruling coalition of its parliamentary majority. President Sergio Mattarella would now have to carry out consultations with party leaders to consider granting a fresh mandate for government to one of them. Conte's gamble was that he would be offered the opportunity to form a new coalition with a parliamentary majority. Conte's two main coalition partners, the anti-establishment Five Star Movement and the center-left Democratic Party, were supportive of his bid to form a new government and to go on as prime minister. But Conte would have to find another party to ally with to form a parliamentary majority. If that were not possible and President Mattarella did not see a pathway for another government to be formed, Italy would be compelled to hold elections 2 years ahead of schedule. Turning to developments in the United States, the Biden administration was forging ahead with its $1.9 trillion COVID relief and economic stimulus package. President Biden has said that robust and aggressive investment was needed to accelerate the response to the coronavirus pandemic and also to stimulate the economy. Republicans have criticized the price of President Biden's relief and stimulus package and demanded bipartisan negotiations. A group of Republican senators were offering a counter package proposal aimed at forcing the White House into last-minute negotiations. The Republican proposal was valued at roughly $600 billion, less than half the $1.9 trillion plan by Biden. Democrats on Capitol Hill were not likely to go along with a highly diluted plan just to satisfy the notion of bipartisanship, especially since, according to recent polling, 2/3 of Americans have expressed support for the Biden plan. With the Senate so closely divided, it was likely that the Democrats would use the budget reconciliation process to push through the Biden plan. Throughout, as President Biden has urged unity, he has also said that unity did not foreclose advancing the policy agenda he was elected to accomplish. With the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump pending, House Democrats have detailed former President Trump's incitement of insurrection against the republic he swore to protect in a pre-trial brief. I'll be covering the impeachment trial in the Senate in next week's Quick Hits. For more information about these and other stories, read my weekly intelligence briefing, which is accessible from the front page of the Country Watch website at www.countrywatch.com. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. And remember, as always, we live in an interconnected world.